to this hearing today on our draft open space level of service policy. We also are live streaming, so I would ask you again to please move your microphone closer to you so everybody listening from afar, I'd like to welcome those people as well, that they can clearly hear what is being said this afternoon. So I think we've got a couple of councillors who may have excused themselves, but I will, I better take apologies now actually. We do have apologies this afternoon from Councillor Bentley, and also we have apologies from Her Worship the Mayor, who is away out of town on council business. Could I have a mover and a seconder please that we accept? Thank you Councillor Wong. Thank you Mr Trumper, that we accept, that apologies be accepted. So I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Thank you. Contrary, kia ora. Declarations of interest. Councillor Donaldson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's not a financial interest, but I do declare that I live adjacent to a park, right on the doorstep, over the fence.
Thank you for that. Thank you. So noted. So we do have three submitters that wish to be heard today. So they'll be heard in a moment, and I am going to ask, well, first of all, I better have a mover and a seconder, that the hearing on the draft open space level of service policy be received. Mrs Trumper, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Kaifong. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary, thank you, carried. And Rob, you're going to give us an overview of the report. Thank you. Oh, may I also please, as I've omitted to welcome our submitters this afternoon. Welcome to you all. Thank you.
Tēnā koutou. Thank you, Madam Chair, through you. So, as you will have seen, the purpose of the hearing today is to hear the public submissions on the draft open space level of service policy. The policy as a draft came to the committee at the October SPNF meeting, where it was adopted to go out to public consultation. And the policy is based around informing open space requirements for new developments and giving us a consistent framework for assessing our network as to what we have and what we need. It guides level of service standards around open space for quality, what our open spaces look and feel like, quantity, how much we have, accessibility, where it's located and how easy it is to get to, and functionality, making sure that we have a diversity of experiences that cover all users. Consultation for the draft policy was notified through local media, advertising, council's Korero Mai, our e-Panui, and direct letters to identified stakeholders and partners. The submission process ran for a month from mid-November through to mid-December. 8 submissions were received and 3 of these submitters are here to be heard today. After this process, a staff report will be prepared and the committee will consider this and complete deliberations for hopefully the April SPNF meeting. So thank you very much, and we've got our submitters here waiting to be heard.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So then we'll go straight into the submitters. Miriam Rabiel. Grey Power Rotorua. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I apologise for Miriam. She's in hospital at the moment, so I'm standing in for her. And my name is Cornelius Papenfuss.
Sorry, what was your surname, please, Cornelius?
Papenfuss, P-A-P-E-N-F-U-S.
Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Chair, there are certain aspects in this document that's, for a layman, difficult to understand. And I've did some research on this. And I think that the purpose of the document should be expanded to provide a cohesive view of the nature and purpose of an open space system and generate principles of approach most likely to lead to its establishment. To formulate a perceptual model that can be used to identify the types of land most worthy of inclusion within an open space system, to propose a methodology which, if applied, would most likely to bring any potential open space into effect, to determine suitable boundaries for a Rotorua Lakes City open space system, to provide a holistic view and analysis of existing open space, to identify those potential open spaces that occur throughout the area that are worthy of inclusion in an open space system based on applied criteria, to, in terms of the chosen methodology, assess existing and potential open space that should constitute open space policy. And then a technical term that is used normally in an open space development policy is a primary open space. Now, primary open space in the draft document is only mentioned as a parenthesis at one stage. I think it's on page 3 of the document. That's a central part of any open space policy. So it's my submission that it should be expanded for the people to understand what's the purpose of an open space, primary open space. Now, there's a primary open space and a secondary open space. Or you can talk about a public open space or private open space. And it's very, very important in a policy to make a distinction so that the public can know what's the accessibility to these specific open spaces. And then, very shortly, there's nothing mentioned about the ecological aspects of the open spaces. In any policy, that's a primary aspect that should be mentioned and be expanded on. And likewise, on the ecology, and then biodiversity, also very important. It's not mentioned in this document. And then we have a problem with the legislation. In the document, under the heading of relevant legislation, the draft policy only mentioned 4 policies. 4 policies, and that's not legislation. The legislation in regard to open spaces, there are a lot of, and I'm not going to waste the time of the council today, but the main thing is there are conservation laws, and I can just mention one, the Resource Management Act. The provisions should be taken out there, and the principles should be incorporated into a policy. Because the hierarchy of legislation is you get your national legislation, you get your provincial legislation, and then you get your local legislation, either bylaws or policies or whatever. But if it's a policy, in the hierarchy higher up, all those legislation must be considered, and the applicable principles should be applied into your policy document. Then, from a more practical point of view, and we feel that the policy and the service level aspects should be separated. The service level is normally a management tool, whilst the policy is legislation or subordinate legislation that's available to the public so that they can know what the policy demands and so on. Then, on the practical side, the accessibility of open spaces and I think that's more on the service level aspect, is the accessibility of wheelchairs for elderly people, rest places where they can rest, and even if there are problems, how they can contact the police or St. John's or whatever. So there are a lot of practical issues, but mainly we feel that the policy as it stands is not a proper bylaw or legislation. It should be expanded to bring in the important points that I raised now, and I'm not going to expand on that. I hope that we get our message through that there could be expansion on those items.
Thank you very much. We do have about 5 minutes for if councillors would like to ask some questions. Thank you. Happy to do. Yes, Mrs. Trumper.
Thank you very much for presenting today. So I just got a couple of questions. I know when we've travelled away, we've always looked at parks that have got easy access and or marked with disability signs, etc. Is that what you're looking for? Is something that, you know, is marked easy to hard, so that you actually know? And I think in one of yours is around public toilets. Are you expecting public toilets in every park? Is another one that I was just wanting to have answered.
Thank you, Councillor. Chairs, through you. Councillor, yes, unfortunately I didn't mention it, but that's a very, very important aspect, is public toilets. For the elderly, and I mean for the public in general. There are a lot of places in Rotorua, and I'm not going to expand on that, where there should be public toilets, where there are a lack of public toilets. And elderly people, it's a major problem. So I would say on all the public open spaces, including parks and nature reserves and so on, there should be, well, I can't emphasize it more, but it's very, very important. Thank you, Councillor.
Councillor McPherson.
Thank you very much. I concur. Very interesting. I just want to check that I've got it right. You'd like to see this draft policy redrafted, so there's a definition of key terms. You want the concept of biodiversity added and clarified. You'd like the precedent of legislation to take precedence over policies. And you'd like the practical management and the service levels separated. And then you'd like, do I take it, you'd like to see it have the presentation of a bylaw, or alternatively perhaps an appendix with a bylaw capturing the key changes. Does that summarise your preferences?
Yes. Thank you, Councillor. Through you, Chair. Councillor, yes. The service level agreement can be in the form of a schedule to the policy, or you can have a separate bylaw on that. But to have a complete document, to separate, to bring in the form of a schedule with the maps as well. It's very important to get your maps also attached to this document. Well, I assume that in the final document there will be maps, but on the open space policy, it's necessary for maps to indicate on a bird's eye view, you can see what is public open space, what is private open space. So, and once again, the importance of primary open space. That's the central, the crux of any open space policy, is your primary open space.
Okay. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Donaldson, I'll let you have the last question.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair, through you, Cornelius. Thank you. And I'm just referring to Miriam's written submission. I'm sorry to hear that she's in hospital, but in it, Great Power Rotorua would seek specific exclusion of lime scooters and skateboards from designated walking and electric mobility scooter paths. More recently, we've been moving towards wider shared paths. So is that saying you don't support that direction, the shared path trend that we've been following?
Through you, Chair, Councillor, yes. We feel that there are in the open space areas, specifically for mountain biking, for bicycles, there are ample spaces for them. And I think the main thing or the approach should be, if there are elderly people involved, especially with walking aids or in wheelchairs, it's not very easy for them to get out of the way, even if it's a broader pathway. So I would say it might be difficult to manage that, but to try and keep it separately.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much. And please extend to Miriam our best wishes for a speedy recovery. And I also want to say that thank you to the work that you do, that Grey Power, for your members and others. We have a rapidly increasing ageing population in Rotorua, and so always your submissions keep reminding us of that you have issues that you want to ensure get given the same weight of consideration as anyone else's. So thank you for that. Thank you for your presentation this afternoon.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, Chair. Thank you, Councillors.
Thank you. So our next submitter is Robin McMillan. Kia ora kōrua, and welcome to you both. Robin, you have 10 minutes. If you want to use all your 10 minutes for your presentation, or if you'd like to leave a few minutes at the end for some questions, I'll let you decide on that. So thank you.
Kia ora, councillors, committee members and council staff. My name is Robin McMillan. I'm here with a submission to the open space policy. However, I'm not a public speaker, so my colleague and support person, Robin Cowley, will be making the presentation of the submission. Thanks, Robin.
Tēnā koutou katoa, ko Robin Cowley aho. This is an important and essential policy needing very careful consideration at a critical time in the development of the Rotorua community. As a resident and ratepayer, Rotorua's open spaces is of major concern to me in what seems to be a time of encroachment by local council. It is important that council looks at all open spaces available to the general community, whether they are currently designated as open spaces or not. As a resident of Springfield, I have been horrified by the council proposal to take the open spaces currently leased and maintained by the Springfield Golf Club to turn into roading, car parks, maintenance buildings, housing, for the sake of a few playing fields for senior rugby and soccer. The golf club currently allows this space to be available to the community on a daily basis for all ages and for all types of recreation. I refer here aligning to the open space values outlined on page 29 of the Open Space Strategy Papaatia, which references an ageing population with changing recreational demands. This will certainly not be the case if the Sports Hub proposal is pushed through. It is interesting that the considerations of this open spaces draft proposal is exactly what the Springfield community considers the council to be ignoring in their Sports Hub proposal. If the proposal goes ahead, Springfield and all the new housing developments in the Pokahangi Road area will lose the only major green space available to them. And the reference, the 2003 yardstick, page 34, reports Rotorua's low ratio of 12.41 hectares per 1,000 residents as compared to the yardstick median of 15.17 hectares per 1,000 population. Where will the open space needed to compensate for that be located? Why is the Springfield Golf Course not listed as one of the current open spaces? The Springfield Golf Course also lists mature trees, wildlife, birds and insects,
wetlands and the Utahina stream as part of its space. All these will be potentially lost to housing and sporting developments. This proposal discusses responsible maintenance of our open spaces, and this is an area of neglect by our council that has led to the deterioration of our current community sports fields, leading to the council's excuse for closing or selling off some of the more problematic of these. Community members are already personally contributing to the care and development of various green spaces. I refer to the open space level of service policy draft, page 2. One of 5 main objectives states, the open space network is protected and enhanced. The council could certainly take a lesson from the Springfield Golf Club in the faultless maintenance and upkeep of the course at no cost to the general community or ratepayers. These green spaces are an extension of our homes and lives, our emotional and physical well-being, as reinforced by Te Arawa and Tangata Whenua and the spiritual connection to our land, our tūranga waiwai. I urge the Council to take time to gather comprehensive feedback from the community, particularly those most affected, and to consider this carefully. The local community considers its open spaces to be taonga, and as such, sacrosanct. In a world where space and nature are becoming increasingly under threat, they need to be saved and protected. Once they are lost to the community, they will never be recovered. I challenge what seems to be the accepted idea that it is within Council's power to dispose of these particular assets as it chooses. Kia ora.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Are there any questions from councillors? Carl, thank you very much for your presentation today. We have got your submission here and we have all read it. Thank you. Our next submitter, Tātou Pounamu Collective. Kia ora and welcome.
Kia ora tātou. Ni reha pirika taku ingoa. And we're here representing Tātou Pounamu Collective. I'll let the others introduce themselves.
Kia ora, Madam Chair, councillors, council staff and fellow submitters. Ralph Mosen, I represent Owhara Marae and Te Roro Tarangi on Tātou Pounamu.
Yeah, kia ora, councillors. My name is Brian Halligan. I'm a member of the Tātou Pounamu Collective, but also representing the Rotorua Lakes Club.
Kia ora.
Our submission has two main bullet points. We are a collective. We are specifically concerned about what's happening on the east side, unashamedly so actually, and so we'll just be talking specifically to the east side. And the first bullet point, Nidia is going to talk to.
I suppose one of the things is what we're looking for is that there's continuity within, because we've done the East Side Wellness Plan and we've also done East Side Locality Plan, we want that also reflected in the policies that Council bring up or maybe adjust through the years. It's a different way of working. And I think if you're part of the collective, you would know what that is. Like when we make decisions, it's on consensus. There has really been a time where we've actually used the majority. And if there was really robust discussions during that time. But the thing is, I think that we have come together as an East Side community collective. And it proves what we've done on the wellness plan and the locality plan as well. So one of the references, obviously, the involvement of hapu. within any decision making. But not just Hapu, the community as well. So in that community, I'm not just saying east side, I think it should be all the communities that we have in Rotorua should all be the same.
And the second bullet point, we discussed involving the full community, including rangatahi and tamariki voice. We have a perfect example out at Pukitawhero Park where we, as a Tātou Pounamu collective, surveyed 852 rangatahi from ages 9 through to 18, gained their input as to they wanted to that park, and over a 2-year period we basically delivered everything that they asked for. And I would suggest that as an example, a shining example of a park that's well used in this town, Pukitawhero stands out as a result. And I think that's the approach that we're saying we would like to be involved in for the east side, and particularly given that in the latest plans that we've seen when we've gone through the locality plan and the wellness plan that Niriha spoke about, it is quite clear that the next development in Rotorua, 4,100 homes are coming out east side, so it's particularly pertinent that we have those conversations now before we get too far down that track. And we're open for questions.
Yes, happy to take questions. I think, yes, Councillor Donaldson.
Yeah, Madam Chair, through you, kia ora, Niriha, Ralph, Brian. My question is, have you read or have you been provided with the other submissions that we have in front of us here today? Because there's one from an entity specifically relating to Pukitawhero Park. So I just wonder if you've had a chance to see those and have a glance over them, have some thoughts at all.
I haven't personally. Have you? No, I haven't seen the other submissions.
Okay, thank you.
I hope it was good.
Yeah, it was. It's asking for more. So, but no, that's fine. It's just given your, I guess, approach to us that the collective would like to be involved in all decision making. I think it's important you do get to see the other submissions that are relevant to East Side. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Are there any further? Yes, Councillor McPherson.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. Fascinating. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Much appreciated. The themes of your presentation, I've got it right, is that you really want the advice that you gave and was seen in the East Side locality plan should be respected because it's based on a community consensus. And similarly, later when it came to providing services at the park that you're most familiar with, that too was built on or tried to reflect local demands. So these two approaches both indicate a cultural norm of having your voice heard and then being respected in plans. Is that the essence of what you're after? Great.
Yep, I feel so. But not just on the east side, it should be all over Rotorua.
That was my next point. I wanted to note just how close, in those conceptual terms, your presentation was to the previous about how people in Springfield and Pukehangi feel about their golf course. Yes. Thank you very much for your presentation. Thank you, ma'am.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for coming along today. We have read your presentation, read your submission, but I would like to thank you for the mahi, for the work that you do on the east side. It's quite outstanding, actually, and we're all familiar with it, and we do share your vision for the east side of Rotorua, your collective vision, and the opportunities that you always ensure to make sure that other voices are heard within your community. It's just so important. So thank you for that.
Kia ora.
Nice to have you with us today.
Kia ora koutou.
Thank you. So perhaps just where to from here? I might ask Una about. Oh, is it Rob? Yes, fine, Rob. So just to refresh us about the process from here on, Rob, so that everybody knows.
Kia ora, thank you, Madam Chair. So what will happen with the submissions and the additional information, we will prepare a staff report and that will come back to the committee for deliberations on the draft policy and any changes that are suggested, and that will go through a deliberation process, and then we'll finalise the policy from there.
When do you envisage the policy is likely to be enacted, Rob? This year, before the...
Yes, that would be our hope. We would hope that we can actually have a deliberation perhaps at the next SPNF meeting, and then after that the policy would be enacted.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming along. Thank you. Oh, sorry, Councillor Donaldson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just I guess a point of clarification from Rob. The submission on the Springfield Golf Course is the proposals for the sports hub. Is that part of the open spaces policy per se, or?
The open space policy doesn't get into detail around that sort of thing. I mean, it sets the levels of service standard on quality, quantity, and accessibility, and doesn't deal with that. It needs to be applied to the whole network, and then once a network view comes out, we'll be able to consider further how it affects individual parks and reserves.
Yeah, but, and I guess my supplementary question is the submission contended that the leased golf course should be regarded as an open space. So will the report address that?
Perhaps, thank you, Councillor Donaldson. Perhaps I could ask our General Manager, Jocelyn, if she'd care to respond to that under your work programme.
Kia ora tātou. So at this point, while the golf club is under lease, it's under lease until 2027. At that point, it will come back into our network. So that's one point to note.
Kia ora, Jocelyn. I'm not sure people know that it actually is council land. I'm sure they do, but...
Yes, it is council land on a 35-year lease, and it is due to come back, and we are in discussions with the golf club. The other point is no decisions will be made around Westbrook until we go out into the community and have a consultation process. So there will be a consultation process once we have a finalised plan to present to our community. Kia ora.
Thank you. Well, Robin was getting in first. Kia ora, Robin. But thank you very much, and thank you for clarifying that. That's really important. So thank you to our presenters for coming along today. And you've just heard from Rob the process from here out, so it probably will come back to the next, our next committee meeting, SPNF, and hopefully then by the middle of the year it should be enacted. So thank you very much. So I'd like to now declare our meeting closed. Thank you. Kia ora. Thank you so much. Yes, welcome. Thank you. Thank you very much.